welcome to the inaugural episode of SPQR Reviews, where I take a piece of media, get on a soapbox, and talk about it for a while. So this week's subject is I, Claudius, the book by Robert Graves, and this book is my favorite book of all time. So if you're curious about what the rating's going to be, it's 10 out of 10. Kind of a spoiler there, I suppose. Anyways, I really had a good time reading I, Claudius. It took me about 2 months to read. I started it in August and finished it in about October or maybe early November. I don't think that's correct, though. Anyways, maybe closer to a month and a half. I'm not sure. But it's a wild ride, and I enjoyed it to the fullest extent. I, Claudius is very, very well written. It's very engaging. Despite the fact that it's not wholly historically inaccurate, which I'll get to, it feels very realistic still. And it's endlessly entertaining. Incredibly engaging. You'll see things like you'll see a character show up. Like, I don't know if I can... Oh, yeah, like Caligula. You'll see Caligula show up and he'll be a little guy. And Claudius will mention him offhandedly. And you'll be like, oh no, I know who that is. That's Caligula. And another thing I really like this book is all the prophecies. I just think it's cool. Especially the sibling prophecy that the book pretty much starts off with in the preface from Claudius. I find it really interesting, and the limerical style and everything, I don't know, prophecies are just really appealing to me, and Claudius the God probably places an even bigger emphasis on prophecies, but I'll talk about that book eventually, don't you worry. Anyways, so some people have cited as a detractor from this book the fact that Claudius, rambles. I can't agree with that, honestly, because even when Claudius rambles, it's still important, and it still matters to the story. Like, for instance, Claudius kind of goes on a tangent one time about how, generals who are very proficient, people like Hannibal and Caesar, they're also, epileptic. And later on in the book, Claudius offhandedly relays this to Caligula, Caligula fakes having an epileptic seizure. And this is kind of just to exaggerate how decadent and loose cannon and spoiled brat of a guy Caligula is, you know? So, I don't know. I think it's honestly important. And while we're on the subject of Claudius, some of the major characters are the best part of this book. Calpurnia, Caligula, Germanicus, Robert Graves gives these faceless, minus Caligula, people like Germanicus and Calpurnia, they're largely faceless, and even Claudius himself is kind of just there, you know? Robert Graves manages to turn these, faceless blank slates into wild imagery, awesome characters that have their own specific character arcs, their vices and virtues. It's crazy. And I thought Calpurnia wasn't a real historical figure because that's how well she was written. I'm like, that has to be made up. There's no way that happened. But she's real, and she really did some of the things she did in the book. Granted, not everything she did in the book, but she was related. She was affiliated with Claudius, not related, because, that'd be kind of weird. Anyways. Also, we can't talk about major characters without referring to Livia, because, come on, Livia is literally one of the most, probably a very, very classic literary character. I think in the same vein as Maleficent, I'd say she holds that much influence. They feel very similar to me. I don't know, I actually haven't seen Maleficent, but that's what I compare it to, I suppose. But no, Livia is a fantastic character, and it's really a focal point of the book. And when she's out of it, there's definitely a different atmosphere, but her influence transcends I, Claudius, and even leaks into Claudius the God, because she's really just tangled up in everything. It's awesome. It's so cool to have a lasting impact. Oh, God. It's such a good book, dude. You have to read it. Anyways, so Claudius he's not a full one-for-one good guy, right? He gets fantastic advice from, I think it was Livy. I'm pretty sure he meets Livy at one point. And Livy's like, Claudius, don't be too smart or else you're going to get axed. And Claudius took his advice, and he's like a flawed. He presents himself as an idiot intentionally, which he got that reputation, right? That's first and foremost what most people would know him for, being an idiot, a fool, a stammerer, blah, 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 walks with a limp. But that worldview helped kind of shape him. He's not bitter, but he does look at people and see their intrinsic value, and he's willing to look past some less desirable aspects. And he really knows when he's found a good, virtuous person, someone like Germanicus versus someone like Livia, who Claudius basically saw right through and was suspicious of. Anyways, Claudius is also, well, no, I'll save that. I'll save that for the Claudius the God review. We'll get there when we get there. But as for the bad, I guess the one thing I could say is it's historically accurate. Like, recent finds have discovered that Caligula didn't really do what people know him for, like the whole horse for consul thing. That didn't really happen. And Livia didn't poison Augustus with rubbing this stuff on the figs or whatever, yada yada. But even that, Claudius isn't it's based in history, but it's historical fiction. So embellishments like making Caligula more exaggerated, making Livia a villain, if they work to the benefit of the story, then it's completely worth it, because this is first and foremost a story for entertainment, and it just so happens to be told by an actual historical figure. That's how I look at it, at least, and I think that's pretty correct and valid. Yeah. So, Claudius, it's a wild ride, a fantastic book. If you're starting to read or you want to take up reading, it is kind of lengthy, but I think it feels like a long TV show. You know what I mean? It's very vivid. You can picture everything perfectly, especially if you know some stuff about Roman history. God, it's a great, fantastic novel. So Claudius the God gets a Roger Ebert 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. Yeah. See you guys next time.